Good morning. Welcome to the CUNA Advocacy Update. I'm Ryan Donovan, CUNA's Chief Advocacy Officer. It's September 28th, 2020. Here are four things you need to know about credit union advocacy. It's the last week of Congress, except that it's not. This is the last regular session week that the House and the Senate are expected to have before recessing for the elections. But there are a couple of things that could keep them in session longer. Of course, in the Senate, we have the process for confirming the new Supreme Court justice, and that's going to keep the Senate, at least the Judiciary Committee, in session beginning on October 12th, with the expectation that there will be a vote by the full Senate later in October. Of course, negotiations continue regarding COVID recovery legislation, and Speaker Pelosi has pledged to keep the House in session until there's an agreement. Now, what's really going to happen is members will go home to campaign and they'll be on 24 hours notice to return to Washington in the event that there is an agreement. But for all intents and purposes, this is going to be the last week of session. We expect the Senate to complete the process on approving the continuing resolution to fund the government until December. The House has some legislation that it's going to consider as well, and then they'll get out of town. We've talked the last several weeks about how our priorities in a potential COVID recovery package have come into focus, and I just want to touch on them once again. We're very supportive of the extension of the CARES Act credit union provisions. So these are the provisions that help credit unions do troubled debt restructuring, that expanded the central liquidity facility authorities. We've also been encouraging Congress to provide some PCA flexibility, recognizing that the influx of deposits that credit unions have experienced over the last several months has put pressure on their net worth ratios. There's a number of different ways to go about fixing this for credit unions, starting to see some traction in Congress on this issue, and so we'll continue to advocate for that. PPP flexibility, the Paycheck Protection Program, forgiveness flexibility, that's also a priority for us. It's becoming even more important as we turn to that forgiveness phase of the Paycheck Protection Program. Senator Kevin Cramer in the Senate is a champion of our PPP forgiveness legislation. And of course, we continue to support efforts to provide liability protection for entities that are required to stay open during the pandemic. And of course, also to provide state and local funding for governments to help with first responders, healthcare, education, and other costs that have increased as a result of the pandemic. If you were at the GAC with us earlier this year, you know that we made a priority, or we plan to make a priority, a federal data security law. And you heard us say more than once, you can't have data privacy without data security. Well, last week, the Senate Commerce Committee released legislation. They held a hearing on a federal data security law that Senator Wicker, the chairman of the committee, has sponsored. We're supportive of that legislation. It's really become a bit of a casualty of the pandemic. We had hoped Congress would move much more quickly, get much further in the process of enacting a federal data security and data privacy law. This certainly puts a bookend on Congress's efforts in this Congress, and we'll be ready to engage Congress when they resume consideration of this issue next year. Lastly, I just wanted to note we're 36 days away from the presidential election. We have launched a membership activation program campaign. It's called Credit Unions Vote. It's designed to encourage credit union members to register to vote and then to go and vote. We are a nonpartisan organization. We have support on both sides of the aisle. And in our political advocacy, we try to elect candidates that support credit unions, that understand credit unions, that want to see us thrive and see us continue to serve our members. The Credit Union Votes campaign is about registering credit union members to vote. And there's more information on that at, believe it or not, creditunionsvote.com. We hope you check it out. That's it for me this week. Thanks for joining for this advocacy update. If you have any questions or concerns throughout the week, don't hesitate to contact me. I look forward to hearing from you, and I hope you have a great week.